Good morning, welcome. And we're on Chav Gimel Amud Beis on the bottom, in the middle of the Halachas of Kriyas Torah. Kori b'Torah, lichus b'shlosh psukim. Each person gets an aliyah, has to read at least 3 psukim. The Gemara mentioned this before as a given, but here's the Mishnah. We had before also about 3 aliyahs. Now it talks about 3 people, 3 psukim per person. For the Yikra and Mutorgum, and they also read pasuk echad. So once upon a time, we used to have a translator. If you go to a Yemenite shul, you can still see it, that they say a pasuk, and then the Balkori says a pasuk, and then someone says a targum. So nowadays it's not the custom. We saw that Taisus himself says that you see in the Gemara's times also wasn't obligation, it's a custom, and nowadays the custom is not in general. But here it says that when you read the Torah and then the targum translates, you have to do 1 pasuk at a time. Don't read more than one pasuk at a time, but they should translate, because you might get mixed up. The translator might get mixed up. It seems that the translator doesn't have a book to read from, and he's not even looking into the Sefer Torah to know what he's translating. He just hears the Balkore, and he translates it. So if he's going to say 2 psukim, 3 psukim, so then he'll be overwhelmed. He'll make some mistake maybe. And we're very mindful that people should get the right translation. They shouldn't make any mistakes in the Torah. But Navi, Shlosha. In the Navi, also you have a matargim, also there's a translator, but over there you can do 3 psukim at a time, because Rashi says we're not so concerned about making mistakes because there's no halacha to learn from. The Navi is Musar, but it's not learning out new halachos. So there, even if someone makes a mistake, it's not as a catastrophe as it will be a mistake in making a mistake in the Torah.
A mistake of the Targum, I was saying?
The translation will be a mistake, right?
Yeah.
But Hanaga a lot of times has more.
I don't know if it's Hanaga. It's general. It doesn't have to be every single word. If you got the general idea, even though you didn't translate all the words, I think we'll be okay. I think that's what the Mishnah means. Are you shloshtan shalosh parshios koren echad echad? Even if in the Navi where we said that you're allowed to, go ahead, whatever you need.
Okay.
It's good.
Yeah, I have my.
Are you shloshtan shal? If you have 3 psukim, now it's saying that you can't go from one parsha to another parsha. If there's a paragraph indentation in between. So then, even by the Navi, also you can't continue 2 psukim that are in 2 different paragraphs if there's an indentation in between. And it says an extreme example, even if you have 3 psukim, each one is a separate parsha, that the whole paragraph is 1 pasuk. So then you'd have 3 psukim in a row like that. You'd have to read each one individually.
That happens? Okay.
So the Gemara is going to say that it happens, and we'll see it when we get there.
Okay.
And even if it wouldn't happen, you also have to learn out that you're not allowed to read 2 psukim. That will be the last pasuk of the previous parsha and the first pasuk of the next parsha. You're not allowed to pass through a parsha 2 psukim. Here it's saying an extreme case, that even if you have 3 psukim that are 3 parshas, you're also not allowed to do that. Then the question is if you're allowed to skip. If you're allowed to skip in the Torah. Medalgin b'Navi, ve'en medalgin b'Torah. You're allowed to skip in the Navi, and they do that sometimes when they're reading the Navi, so they skip towards the end usually. And ve'en medalgin b'Torah, you're not allowed to skip in the Torah. We'll see the sugya, sometimes you're allowed to, but here the Mishnah says you're not allowed to skip in the Torah. Like how much are you allowed to skip? When you are allowed to skip, that means so far we just said in the Navi you're allowed to skip. But there's a maximum. Only as long as the translator is still talking. But if he finished translating and now you're still looking for the place that you want to skip to, so the tzibur is sitting there and it's not kavod tzibur that they should have to wait, so then you're not allowed to skip. So there's 2 points. One point is kavod tzibur, that they shouldn't wait idly while you're turning the sefer, that you're not allowed to do in all cases. But even if you're not going to be any hesitation, it won't be any interruption. But in the Torah, you can't skip. Again, the same idea is going to be, because in the Torah, we want to make sure that you got it right. And if you jump around, so then people get confused. He was talking about one pasuk, now we jump someplace else. But in the Navi, again, we're not so concerned that of a mistake. So people won't understand it well. So even if you jump around, it's still permissible. So that was the Mishnah. Just to chaz over the points, it says that each aliyah is going to be 3 psukim. And then it talks about reading to the Matorgim one. So in the Torah, 1 pasuk at a time, in the Navi, 3 psukim at a time, unless there's a hefsek parsha in between. And then the issue about skipping in the Navi, you're allowed to skip as long as you don't keep the tzibur waiting idly while you are turning the scroll. But in the Torah, you're not allowed to skip, even if no one's going to be waiting. The Gemara asks, how come we have 3 psukim at a time? How come you have to read 3 psukim at a time? Not at a time. What does it mean? Each aliyah. An aliyah has to be 3 psukim. Why is that? What is it corresponding to this Allah that each Olah has to read at least 3 psukim? We had a similar Gemara earlier when I spoke about 3 aliyahs on Monday, Thursday, and Shabbos Mincha said the 3 aliyahs. Also, the Gemara said over there, over there said another pshat also, Kan Levim Yisraelim. And here it only says 1. That's a very nice girsa from the Rif. The Rif has a little different. He says over there, he only says about the Kohen Leviim Yisraelim, and that is talking about how many people you have to have. So it's very nice. That's corresponding to the people. The people of Am Yisrael is divided into three groups, and here it's talking about the Torah, how many psukim you read. So here the girsa says Torah Nevi'im Ksubim because there are three kinds of Torah. Even though now you're only reading Torah, but you have to read the amount that would be corresponding to the three types of Torah. So that's then how can we read three psukim for each oleh? Keneged Torah Nevi'im Ksubim. Some of the gears over here also Keneged Kohen Leviim Yisraelim. That depends on the gersa.
That we learned yesterday. It's a different for a different reason. Yes.
I don't think so. What did you remember?
No, here it is. The end of when Kaf Gimel Amud base.
That's the Mishnah we just read. We just started today the Mishnah on the bottom.
Oh.
And we said the reason. Now, in the Mishnah that says the halacha. Here it says the reason. The reason is Keneged Torah Nevi'im Ksubim. The Mishnah continued. The highlighted is just quoting the Mishnah from on top. Something's okay. Should have been highlighted over there also. Overnovi Gimel Psukim. That's all the Mishnah we had on top of the page. That when you're reading for the translator, so in the Torah you only can do one pasuk at a time. Make sure it doesn't make any mistake. But on the Navi you can do three psukim at a time, provided that there's no hefsek parsha in between. But if you have three psukim, that each one is an individual parsha, there's an indentation in between. So then even there you have to read only one pasuk at a time. You can't jump even translating the Navi a pasuk into the next paragraph. Keep going. And the Gemara gives you an example of three psukim in a row that have a separate parsha. Each one is a separate paragraph. Keep going. Kikol ma Hashem chinom nimkartem. And the next pasuk is Kikol ma Hashem Elokim Mitzrayim Kikol ma Hashem Elokim Mitzrayim Yorad Aviva Rishona. And the third pasuk Vatam Aliponim Hashem. So the Gemara found three psukim in a row that have each one is a separate paragraph.
These are three psukim in a row.
Three psukim in a row, and each one is a separate
Here it says
indentation.
so it would be 3, 4, and 5.
Okay,
Whatever.
we can look at that. And if you look in our Nevi'im, it's not like that. We don't have this paragraph indentation. So the Gemara seems to be different than our Masorah of how you're supposed to make the paragraph indentation. Very interesting. This happens to be, I think they say the Haftorah of Parshas Mishpatim. 52. Plus, what do you say, 4 or 5? Is that
3,
right?
4,
3,
5.
4, and 5.
3, 4, 5.
And you have to look in your Navi let me look in my Navi and the paragraph indentation. Yeshaya 52. I just had written in my Navi, in my Gemara, that we don't have this indentation the way the Gemara makes it. 52. Yeshaya 52.
I do have here. I have a samach after 3, but I don't have a samach after 4.
52. So here we only have between 2 and 3 is an indentation,
No,
between 3 and 4, and that's all. So it's only over there is only pasuk only. So we don't have this.
Uh-huh.
Okay, we do a little different than this. The tradition, sometimes you have that the Gemara says one way how to write Torah on a VM, and we have different, and of course we talk about it, that we do different than the Gemara sometimes. That's the end of that.
After you could really pick the one you want, no?
That's not the subject.
I lost you. So what were we talking
But
about?
it's talking about how in the Navi, the way you write the Yeshaya, you have a paragraph indentation between these psukim. The Gemara says you have 2 psukim in a row that each one is a separate. You'd have to stop after each one. And we don't have that in our Navi. Next.
We have it after 1.
Okay, there's one pasuk, but it's not what the Gemara says. The Gemara's looking for 3 psukim in a row. Each one is going to be have to read it by itself.
Okay.
Then we talk about skipping.
Really, the Mefarshim say on this that these are 3 different dinyanim. That's how they're retired.
That's different. That's different than the Gemara. You want to say shalosh parshios? It's not like shalosh parshios means different subjects.
That's what I saw. I didn't look into it, but they say that these 3 psukim are different dinyanim, and that's why it's considered different pashas, something like that.
That would be a huge chiddush that you're not allowed to read from one subject to another subject, even if there's no hefsek parsha in between. Okay, comes out a big chiddush. I didn't know that. I don't know if we don't have Targum anyway nowadays. The whole thing is not relevant to us. But you're saying that it wouldn't be a kasha on our Masorah. Okay, Yashikor, thank you. I didn't know that. The next halach is about skipping. Does anybody recall where we skip in the Torah any place?
Yeah, when we do, we go to
in the Torah. You're talking about the
Oh,
Navi. In the Torah.
Navi.
So I only remember one place where we do it, and
Torah?
on a tiny Sibur. So the Levi, it's not so noticeable because it's another Aliyah. The Kohen got the first Aliyah, the Levi got the second Aliyah, and the Balkori is scrolling while the Levi is coming up. So there's a case where we do skip in the Torah, and the Gemara doesn't talk about that particular example, but after the Gemara is finished, we'll see that that's permissible. But so far, the Mishnah says you're not allowed to skip in the Torah. Here it goes. Medalgim and Navi, Medalgim and Torah. You're allowed to skip in the Navi, and but you're not allowed to skip in the Torah. And then where's the kasha? We find some places where you skip, but not the kasha that I said, that Dr. Fine said, but Remini, a kasha from a Mishnah in Yuma. Korei, Achremos, V'Achbosa. The Kohen Gadol in Yom Kippur, he reads Parshas Achremos, and he reads also Emor. Then it says after that, he reads Parshas Pinchas by heart. He says, Yosef Masha Kosov Khan. But these two he reads from the text, from the scroll, and he's skipping. He reads Parshas on Yom Kippur in the Beis HaMikdash. He reads Achrimos, and then he skips to Achbos over there. It's talking about Yom Kippur and Parshas Emor, and he skips. Well, come down like this, the kasha against the Mishnah. The Mishnah says you're not allowed to skip. The Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur skip. Amar Abaye, lo kasha.
Isn't this selected readings?
It doesn't make a difference. He's skipping. He's skipping. You're not allowed to skip in the Torah. You're not allowed to skip when you're reading the Torah. And he skips, that's the kasha. And even if it's not going to, okay, the Gemara first tries to get out of it, but the Gemara right away says that this teretz is not true. Abaye tries to say, right away the Gemara is going to knock it down. But Abaye tries to say that the problem is only if you're going to interrupt the reading, people are going to be standing idly. That the translator, and it comes out that there was a translator over there in the Beis HaMikdash also. So if you could scroll from Achri to Mos to Emor, not far away, and the translator is not going to finish translating, so no one's sitting around idly, then you are allowed to skip. But the Gemara says right away, the Mishnah says a parish not like that. The Mishnah says that you're not allowed to skip the Torah. You are allowed to skip in the Navi, and even by the Navi, you're not allowed to skip if it's going to be an interruption. So that means that by the Torah, you're not allowed to skip even if there's no interruption. Or else there's no difference Torah and Navi. So that's not true. So Abaye didn't answer the question yet. How could the Kohen Gadol skip from Achrimos to Emor on Yom Kippur? You're not allowed to skip in the Torah. That even though the Mishnah says a seemingly a blanket statement that you're not allowed to skip in the Torah, he says it's only when it's two different subjects. But if it's one subject, you're allowed to skip. And there, Achrimos and Emor is both about Yom Kippur. Since it's the same subject, even though it's skipping, you're allowed to skip. In the Navi, you're allowed to even skip two subjects, two different subjects. You're allowed to skip, and even though it's a different subject. But in the Torah, you're not allowed to skip if it's two subjects. But if it's the same subject, you're allowed to skip. And that would make sense. So by Yechal, we skip it. It's the same subject still. So even though we skip, that's what the Levi gets. So even though it's skipping, but it's still the same subject. So that's why you're allowed to do.
How much is it skipping?
About a whole column or so.
Whole column.
But no one pays attention because the Levi is coming up. It isn't the same person that they're waiting to. But in the Navi, you're allowed to skip even two subjects, but you're not allowed to do it if it takes people time. If it takes time, nowadays, that's the point for nowadays. Nowadays, there is no translator. So whatever you're going to do is going to take time. So unless it's mamish, you could open up and nobody realizes you didn't make any kind of people sitting idly. But sometimes, and that's to point out that when you have it in from a chumash, or if you have even from a Navi that you're able to hold the place before, you put your finger on this side, put your finger a few pages ahead, so then there's no waiting. But if you have a scroll, like when you have a cloth for Navi, sometimes I've been to places that they think they know where it is, but then it takes time. Once they start looking for the continuation, they don't know where it is. That the Gemara says you're not supposed to do that. What?
Is it tzibur?
Yes, right. They're not supposed to wait around for nothing, idly.
But couldn't we say that at the time when there was a translator, whatever that amount of time would take for him to translate still would apply today, that amount of time?
I don't think so. I think it has to do with the actual sitting around idly. When the tzibur is just waiting, that's not a kavod tzibur. But when they're doing something, they're listening to the translation, they're doing something. It isn't a question of how long, that amount of time. As we saw also that you could do one pasuk, two pasuk, three pasuk, like you could do it different amounts by the Navi. But the point is that you have to keep everybody busy. They should be doing something. You shouldn't be sitting around idly. So the point would be that nowadays there is no Matorgaman. So you shouldn't be allowed to skip at all unless you have your finger on the place and it says continue. And in the regular Chumashim, it's already printed, whatever you want to say. And even if you have a whole Navi, so you could get prepared and put up a paper clip, whatever. But if you're doing it in the cloth, you have to know you put a paper clip over there also. Make some kind of siman that you should be able to find it right away. Tanya Ida. Some take out these two words. It might be a little bit better to take out these. It's a continuation of the same brisa. Even though you are allowed to skip a navi, but it has to be the same navi. It means that even though you're allowed to write many neviim in one scroll, Yeshua, Shoftim, it doesn't have to be each one a separate scroll. Nowadays, when they do make a clap, so they make it each one a separate scroll, but you don't have to. You can make it in one big scroll. And also, let's say if you're reading from a Chumash nowadays, also you'd be allowed to skip, but you're not allowed to skip from one thing to another one. It's too much. That's too much. Too much, not because it takes time, but because it's too much of a change, too much of a different subject. Even though
when's it too much of a change?
You can't start saying Yoshua and then you go jump to Shoftim, even if it's very close and doesn't take any
Don't we
time.
do that when we have wait, I should remember where.
We're saying you're not allowed. You're not allowed. Oh, so that's so there, one more. Yeah, so one more line. Oh, but that's nice. The Chaim David pointed out sometimes we do. The Gemara says that the Navi Shlosh Neim also Medalei. In Treyosar, it's all considered one, even though there are 12. It's a book of 12 and 1. That's considered one. So you are allowed to jump around within Treyosar. And the case of Micha, that's all in the Treyosar.
What would we do with Ezra and Nehemiah?
Ezra and Nehemiah is one book,
It is
but
one.
also it's not Navi. It's Ksuvim. We never read it. We never read it.
Ksuvim.
We never read it in Tzibur. It's not. Mafshe is Dafka Navi, not the Ksuvim. So here it says you're not allowed to go backwards. Even though you're allowed to skip, you're not allowed to go backwards. The Chor, the Pasha says it's even going on one Navi, nothing to do with Treyosar. There's no reason why you shouldn't be allowed to go backwards in Treyosar more than within the same part. On the contrary, within the same Sefer, it's worse to go backward. That's the Chor, the Pasha, that you're not allowed to skip backwards. I'm afraid only you can go forwards. You can skip ahead.
What would that be?
What's the question? I just didn't get the question.
Why would it
Why
be?
would it be that you couldn't go
Backwards?
We're
Backwards?
talking about the 12.
I think not. I
prophets.
think we're talking about within the book. Maybe even Treyosar, maybe even though it's different books, maybe over there you are allowed to go backwards. But within the same Navi, you're not allowed to go backwards because that is confusing.
In
It's
the
only
same
only
Navi, you
confusing
can't-
the people who know the Navi. People that don't know the Navi said nothing's confusing. Everything's a chiddush.
Everything's
But if you know, everything
Oh, I
is. But if people know and then they hear backwards, they say, well, they get off
I
balance.
see. Within a book.
Within a book, you're not allowed to go backwards.
Uh-huh.
You can skip forward. Okay, so to sum it up, we don't have a Metogaman. You may skip in the Torah in the same subject. You may skip in the Navi even two different subjects. You never could keep the Tzibur waiting. And you can't go backwards.
How come sometimes we're sitting in shul and we're waiting for the scroll to come and
Yeah, the Shani, say we train. The Shani, that's not to say that that's the Gabai's.
well, everybody wants to. I mean,
Yeah, the Kasha would be Misha Berach. Misha Berach takes longer than the Aliyah sometimes, So
you're going all the way
you're not supposed to keep. You're not supposed to get. So maybe that's cool that they're not sitting idly. If they're giving a Misha Berach, everybody's happy about it. Whatever you're going to say, but the Gemara is not. But they should keep the tzibur sitting idly. It's not covered that tzibur. Tichot the tzibur, covered that tzibur. Okay, if that's good, so we continue. The Mishnah says. The Mishnah the next Mishnah has a couple of points, and the beginning that the Kotarot are highlighted. There's going to be a kata and pocheya, suma, but the first one I must give an introduction that I don't really get it, and doesn't apply nowadays. It seems no one brings down this halacha, the first halacha that it says. I'll say what the Mishnah says, what the Gemara says, but I don't have clarity on the whole thing. It says the one who gets maftir ben Avi, so we give him a lot of presents. We give him like a package deal. You're getting maftir? Now nowadays maftir is the most chashav aliyah, right? But in those days maftir was the least because it's only Navi. Even it's not Torah.
Consolation prizes.
It's a consolation. That's what it seems to say. Consolation prize. That's what it seems to say. So since we're giving him maftir, everybody else got in the Torah. He's only getting in the Navi. Now the truth is, we even gave him also 3 psukim in the Torah. That was the reason, like the Gemara said, that we shouldn't equate the Torah to the Navi. That we say this person in the Torah, you'll be Navi. So we were worried about that, the cover of the Torah. But the person still, he knows that really is getting Navi, and they just gave him 3 psukim for the cover of the Torah. But he himself, the cover of him, the people who got the Aliyah, are more significant. They got Torah and he got Navi. So we give him a consolation. That's what it seems. So what does he get? The way we have it, these words are questionable in the gear, so some take it out. But let's say Paras al Shema. We said before that there's the one who's motzi birchas yotzer or if somebody came late, so they do Paras al Shema. They say a Baruch Hu afterwards. So and we said also Baruch Hu in the first Kaddish, Baruch Hu in the first Baruch till Yotzam Oros. They chaz it over for the people that came late. They got the kedusha over there, and also he's the one who's the shliach tzibur over l'fnei teva. That he does chazar sashatz. He's the one who does the repetition. So we give him a consolation prize. So some people.
We give Muslims.
So you give Musaf. You give Musaf.
Boris Alam Shmoni.
First al Shema, we had the Mishnah yesterday talked about you have to have 10 people to be first al Shema. We said a few opinions about it. Some say,
was there, right?
oh, so the question is that when he's getting maftir, it's already after first al Shema. First al Shema was not
Does that mean
Shachris.
he davened Shachris? Or what
Right.
does
So no. So some would say that if he knows, the Gabbai knows who's going to get maftir, so he gives them before that he gets Shachris. He gets the Yotzaror. He gets
That's
the
what
Bracha.
that would mean.
That's what it means. If it means that they get it, the latecomers, I'll make a fast minion over there. Maybe they do it after davening also. Could be. I'm not after Kriyas Torah. So he gets a consolation prize, and they give him also to be Paras al Shema, and also he's the Chazan. So it doesn't mean Shachris, doesn't mean Musaf. The problem with Shachris, he was already. Maybe the Gabbai knows he's going to get Mafti, gives him Shachris, or to give him Musaf. Okay. So that's, and I would also say this is difficult. Who knows Siyas Kappa? If he's a Kohen, so he also doesn't see Siyas Kappa and Birchas Kohanim. What does that mean? Only does Birchas Kohanim. The other Kohanim don't do Birchas Kohanim. Everyone does. All the Kohanim do Birchas Kohanim.
And if he didn't get maftir, he wouldn't.
He wouldn't do that. That's the way to say it. And if he wouldn't get maftir, he wouldn't do no Siyas Kappa. He's a Kohen. So some take it out. And we'll see soon why he might have gotten in by mistake from the rest of the Mishnah. But I'll just say one shot that I saw that the Netziv, he suggests that the old, in some places the custom was, and someone told me that even today or in some kill in Italy, the Italian minhag is that only one Kohen says the Birchas Kohanim. All the Kohanim go up and they all there, we're raising their hands, but only one is mostly everybody. So then it would make sense he's the one who's going to get that.
I thought it maybe because in some schools, if the chazan is a kohen, then he doesn't do breakfast.
So then there's a problem. He's not going to be able to be over Lefnei Teva and no Siyas Kappa. He's saying another problem. It says here that he's the chazan and also so that will be a problem.
So they're saying just opposite now, right? That he does
The only-
and he does.
But that's also a question. Only if he's the only one. And the gears is difficult because what happened to other Kohanim? They don't do Nisiyas Kapayim. That would be difficult. It would be difficult to say. This Mishnah is difficult.
He would recite the bracha and everybody would.
No, nothing with the bracha. The bracha of Yerech, Yevarecha Hashem
He
Yishmerecha.
would say.
He says nobody else says it. Nowadays,
all
all
the
the
Kohanim would be there,
Yeah,
though,
yeah.
blessing
Right.
without saying. the
but
word.
they bring
He'd be
Yotzei from his
motzei.
words. That's what the Netziv says. They bring down
And
such a shot.
The Netziv is
The Netziv is
recent, right?
yeah, relatively.
When did he die?
Anybody?
1880 something.
He's not saying that it was his custom in his time, but he says Pshat in the Gemara that it seems that was the custom, and Macharusa told me that he thinks that was the Italian custom. But okay, if not, then take it out. There enough to take it out and say that this is a mistake. It doesn't belong here. So we gave a consolation prize to the one that gets maftir. The Moya Katan, if the one who got maftir is a Katan, then of course the Katan can get maftir. You can get any aliyah, right? But if the maftir was a Katan, he can't get these consolation prizes. So he can't be Paras al Shema, and he can't be over Lefnei Teva. So he's not going to get any consolation prize. So so we give that consolation prize to his Rebbe or to his father, and they're going to be the ones who's Paras al Shema and over Lefnei Teva. The Gemara is going to talk more about this. That's the rest of that's the Mishnah on that first point. If it's clear, it's good. If it's the Gemara is going to say some more about it, then we'll see if we understand it. The new Mishnah. Katan kor b'Torah u'metargim avalena paras al shema vein over lefnei teva vein no siyas kappa. A katan, a minor, less than bar mitzvah, he's allowed to get an aliyah. We had that before. He even counts for the 7. Nowadays they don't do it, only by maftir, but he's allowed to get any aliyah really. Also, he could be the metorgaman. He could be the translator. You go to the Yemenite shul, and there's going to be a metorgaman. He could be a kid. There's going to be a balkori. He could also be a kid. Both of them could be kids. One is the balkori, and one is the metargim. He's allowed to be children. Avalena paras al shema. He can't be motzi the birchas kriya shema, or if it means to make the baruch hu for the latecomers, so he can't do that because he's not chayiv, he's not an adult. Ben over lefnei teva, can't be the shliach tzibur. Ben no siyas kappa, he doesn't do birchas kohanim. Here it says that a kohen doesn't do birchas kohanim. A katan doesn't do birchas kohanim. Taisa talks about that in other places. It seems that he could, and Taisa comes out that there are 3 levels. There's a katan that's davening, that's by himself, and then there's a katan when there are other kohanim also, and then there's a katan on a tiny tzibur on some kind of special occasion. So. They say that a katan, if he's by himself, he's not allowed to do Nesiyas Kapayim. If he's together with other adults, he may. But on a special day, or Kaviyas, they say, so then a katan cannot do it only even with, they say even a gadol cannot do it. Even bar mitzvah cannot do it until he has a beard. Until he's of 18 years old. This
Why?
is,
He has to look like he's.
he has to be more choshev. He has to be more choshev. No, I think he should be a gadol. This is the place over here. It talks about ein osin es kapavachi ismali zakano. And he brings out a place where it says that he could even be younger. So they say that there are 3 levels. The one who does, a katan does it by himself, a katan cannot. If he's together with other people, he may. And if once he's an adult, then he's allowed to do it by himself also. But when it's a tiny sibur or some chashav a day or bekvius, so that he always does it, so then only Ismail is a kohen. That he has. I think that's not enough.
It says that he has a beard.
Ismail is a kohen. You see the text over here? Ismail is a kohen. It could be that if you see that that's because he shaves, but you see that Ismail is a kohen.
What did she, that it's
His
beard is filled.
full beard.
I see, so it's not like a 16-year-old who has beach fuzz or
It
something.
could be. Ismail is a kohen. So it doesn't have to mean if he shaves, he shaves. But you see, you can tell him that
Yeah.
he's growing. Yeah, you see that he's shaving. So that would be then of a kotan to be no kappa. But the main point here, what we learn about, besides that, it says that he's allowed to get he can read the Torah, get an aliyah, and he can read the Torah. He can't be motzi berachas kriyashma or chazar sashatz. But the Sis time we said it depends if he's with others or not. The next category is called a pocheach. Pocheach is not a regular word, but the Mefarshim say that it's the targum of the word arom, which means literally naked. Of course, he's not naked, but his clothing is torn. They talk about if it's because he's ragged or because he's not covered enough. And they talk about if someone would be wearing shorts, if someone would be wearing undershirt, and his sleeves, his arms and his shoulders are bare. So he's allowed to daven, but he's not allowed to be in a position of being motzi people. It's not covered tzibur. Paras Shema, that much he could do. He could be motzi the tzibur b'chas kriyashma umatargim. He also can be the torguman. He can be the translator. Avalein kor b'torah vein over l'fnei hateva vein nanosi eskapa. But he cannot get an aliyah. Can't read the Torah inside if he's dressed like that, and he can't be the shliach tzibur for Shmon Esrei, and he can't do b'chas kohanim. That's what it says. So is that a problem? Sometimes people have, if they have very short sleeves, that's if he has a shirt, undershirt, that's only that his arms are bare, so he shouldn't get an aliyah. He shouldn't be the shliach tzibur. I'll be questioned about shorts also. So some say that it depends on the culture, and it could be that nowadays, if it's not considered, maybe depends on the culture. In some places, it is considered not respectable. Some places, maybe it is. So that's a question for the Achronim. And the halacha says he's not allowed to. And you might say that maybe today is different if the culture is different, that you have to ask a Rav.
There are some shows that, like at the Ramban, where they'll put a talis.
They put a talis. It's fine.
Like someone's wearing a short sleeve shirt, they'll put the
Right.
talis.
So that seems to be a chiddush. That a short sleeve stuff. His shoulders are not. The Rif makes it pretty extreme. That his whole
torso
is exposed. Yeah, so that's pretty extreme. But some will say that even if he has his arms above his arms, so then they're not fit to use a talis. The question is also shorts. Also, someone's wearing shorts. It'd be the same issue if he could wrap himself around in a way that he shouldn't be exposed to get a bit to avoid this problem.
He covered Torah.
Then it's covered a Torah maybe. If he's covered. And just to point out, there might be those that are lenient nowadays. There's an Enikor b'Torah, and over the Teva, right? We're talking about the Shliach Tzibur. A person's allowed to damage Menesman. Kocheach, Paras Hashma, B'Targim, but he may not get an Aliyah, and he may not be the Shliach Tzibur, and he doesn't do Brechas Kohanim. Okay, next point. I'll just point out a cute thing. I think it's true that Mishnayos, they used a very strange word, Kocheach. They could use a different word. So I think it's mnemonic to remember. Katan Korei, Kocheach Pores. That is kuf kuf and pei pei. It's a way to remember. The only difference between these two is that the cotton is korei, but he's not pores, and the pochech is pores, but he's not korei.
Okay, and then also Summa Paris is pretty similar. It's not.
Okay, yeah, but I would say that they couldn't make a simon over there, but if you want to, you could say to another mnemonic to say samach summa pores if you want. Okay, but it's a very good way to remember because everything else in the Mishnah between the cotton and the pochech are similar. The only difference is that the cotton korei veino pores, pochech pores veino korei. Okay, that's cute. Maybe it's true. That's what Chazal intended. Okay, Summa, how about a blind man? A blind man, we hold his chayv mitzvahs. So what's the problem? He could do anything. So it says Paras Hashma, Metargim. He could be motzi berachas kriyashma, and he could be the Torguman. I think he could do probably over the Fnei Tev also. He should be able to also be the Shliach Tzibur. But he can't read the Torah because he can't read the Torah. Nowadays, they talk about that since anyway, the one who gets the Aliyah doesn't read the Torah, the Balkori does. Is that any leniency for a blind person? Maybe he can get an Aliyah because he's not reading anyway. So I think they talk about that. But
He should follow inside.
Okay. So if he's not able to follow, are we going to be lenient? So maybe just talk about that. Yes, please.
would following along in Braille or any of these things, would that assist at all? Or
I don't
would
think
it
so.
be-
I don't think so because he's supposed to be reading. He's supposed to be reading. Even if he knows it by heart, he's supposed to be reading. You're not supposed to read it. So I can't say. I don't know. I didn't see what the Mishnah says about this. Does anybody know the custom? Does the blind man get an aliyah? I remember when I was a child that they did give a blind man an aliyah, but I don't know if they did.
I've seen it done.
You do see it. Okay, so it could be that nowadays that there's a Balkore, so then it's not so important for the Oleh to also read along. There are those that are mocked very much, that the Oleh should read along. Okay.
And
But
the
that-
chorus at Hashema is
Is to be motzi, to be motzi from Baruch Hu and on.
And why do you have to see for that? Oh,
No, he doesn't have to. He may be Paras Hashma.
No, but okay, then Rabbi Yehuda.
Rabbi Yehuda Omer, we're going further. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Kol Shelo Rob Mos Miyam of any Paras Hashma. The Paras Hashma has the Baruch of Yotzam Oros. The whole Baruch of Yotzam Or.
It's Erham or Rose. Oh, so if he.
It's all about light.
Uh-huh.
What's the bracha of Yotzar Or? The whole bracha, Rabbi Miller. The biggest, longest bracha in the day is the bracha about light. That's all about light. We thank Hashem Yotzar Or, Baruch Hu Shechos Hashem, Me'el Oretz, V'lador Moleh. The whole bracha goes into Malachim, bring the Malachim in to also tell us, Hey Ma'yu Faruch Hasela, that they are praising Hashem about the light. It's all Baruch to Hashem Yotzar Moros, that Hashem creates, fashions the luminaries. So it's all bracha about light. So a person who's blind, he doesn't benefit from the light. So he's not chayiv in that bracha, and he cannot be motzi. If he never saw, if he never was able to see, the Rebbe himself is mashma. If he once was able to see, even if he became subsequently blind, he would be able. And I was bothered. So what does he gain now? Even if he was once upon a time able to see, now he can't see. How is he saying the bracha? So they say that he benefits now from what he was able to see once upon a time. Or if it would be learning that he learned, or if it's going to be the streets that he knows how things are because when he was able to see. So Rabbi himself agrees also if he once benefited from the light is good enough, but if he never benefited from the light, so he can't say that bracha. And I want to say
the heat of the sun or something is not enough.
Ma'or is the light. It's not the other aspects of the sun. It's the ma'or. Or is light. So even though it's true that the sun has other benefits, but that's not the benefit that the bracha is all about. So he can't say. He's not chayiv in that bracha. Probably he can't say it for himself either, and he surely cannot be motzi anybody. I would think Rabbi Yehuda would say a yachid, right? And he can't be a shliach tzibur to be motzi.
He's a yachid.
He's a yachid. I would think that he's not. I would think according to Rabbi Yehuda, he doesn't say it himself either.
You could say he doesn't know what light is.
He's not
chayiv. He's not chayiv, right? Because he doesn't benefit from it. Yes, please. I'm sorry.
So if you say he doesn't know what light is.
He doesn't. The point that the Gemara is going to talk about, does he not know what light is, or that he doesn't benefit from the light? That's going to be the Gemara. The Gemara is going to say that he could perceive what light is, but he's not benefiting from it. That's going to be the issue of Rabbi Yehuda. The Gemara is going to say this before, as far as I understood from the Gemara. Okay, so we had 4 subjects in the Mishnah. One was about consolation prizes for the maftir, and then the halachas about a katan, a pocheach, and a sunnah. So going back to the beginning of the Mishnah about the consolation prizes for the maftir. And the Gemara starts, my timer, why do we give him all these prizes? Rabbi says because kavod, as we said, that he didn't get an honorable aliyah as much as the others. So in order to compensate, so we give him other things also. Rabbi Shimi says because there's going to be a fight. So the Gemara is going to say right away the fight's going to be, I wouldn't know yet what the fight's about. But the Gemara is going to say that the case was, the culture over there was that they paid the one who was over Lufnei Teva. The Baal Tefillah got paid for his service of davening, and he feels like why shouldn't I get paid? Why did you give me something that I don't get paid for? I set them off there and you didn't pay me, and the one who gets to be the shliach tzibur is going to get paid, so they're going to fight. So in order to avoid the fight, what do? We give it to the one who got maftir.
Sometimes there's the kavod can also get into a fight, right?
But the Gemara said, good, okay. But the Gemara says, I just see one more. Yeah, surely there's fights about kavod. We don't need a proof. But the Gemara says one more line. My benai, what will be a machlok nafkamina? The difference between these 2 opinions. If they don't pay. So the Gemara seems to say this. The Gemara is saying that the fight is only when there's money involved. If there's no money involved, so then it's not going to be a fight. But kavod is there. Kavod is there also. Kavod is there even if it's for free.
I see. Okay.
There might be some difficulties here, but I'm just reading the Gemara. If anybody has difficulty, so do I. If they don't, it's good. Tanan. It says in the Mishnah, it says that a katan, if he got maftir, so then the consolation prize goes to his father or Rebbe. And the Gemara is bothered, is there a katan, is there issue of fight? Does he get into a fight? Who, like, does he, and the Gemara says also, does he, is it beneath his dignity? He's a katan, like, they can take it easy. If he's, the whole issue is because he's going to fight, because he's not getting paid, is he of that status that he's going to fight? And the Gemara says back, and the covet is a problem. The Gemara, you think I have a raya to one side, is also now the parsha that he says is beneath his dignity. So the Gemara says there is fighting and there is kavod, alika kavod of it before the rabbi. The issue is that the father and the rebbe is going to be insulted, or that since they're his guardian, so to speak, so they're going to stand up for his kavod, it's the father, it's the honor of the father that you give my son only mafia. You could have given him a regular over here, or he can't be able to teva, but you do give the father that he's representing the son, more or less. We're concerned with the fighting of the father or the rebbe. We're concerned with the cover of the father and the rebbe. This halach is not put down nowadays. I don't know why. I didn't see anybody say why it's not put down. It could be the whole culture is different nowadays. They don't pay for the davening, and maftir is very chashuv nowadays. And even have to pay for maftir. Not only. Do they not pay you for anything, but you also have to pay. You have to. The maftir is the biggest covenant. So, and they took away the fight because you have to pay for it. So whoever pays more, he's the one who's going to get it. So I don't know. I'm just talking that the poskim don't bring down this halacha as far as I saw, and I don't know why. So it's not relevant nowadays. As far as I know, it's not relevant that the maftir, they don't have to give musaf. Maybe they do, but they're not mechuyev to. As far as I know,
Are you not mechuyev to give musaf out today either? Because
I don't think so. I don't think that the maftir has a source for musaf. I don't think so. But I didn't see explicitly talk about it. I don't see that there's any number over here about the poskim talking about this halacha. So it seems that it's not relevant nowadays. But if anybody has something more to say, please do share it with us.
So when they have, like on Shabbos, when they have these, what do you call them? They bid for whatever.
They auction it off. That's good.
The auctions.
Yeah. So then the highest bidder is going to get it. No fights.
Rabbi, I was told that it's brought down in one of the achronim. I don't know who it is. That most of us is a compensation for the Baal Maftir who didn't get a regular aliyah.
If you can find who says that, I'd be interested.
I'll try to find something. I know who told me about it, so I'll try to find out.
Thank you. I would just say that the culture is so different nowadays. Maftir is considered the chashuv then, no?
I think it's because it comes with Musaf.
I'm sorry?
I think it's because it comes with Musaf, and also because there are a lot of brachas, so it's an ilu in neshama when someone has the yard side.
It means all the birkas Torah.
So we in those days also you had all the brachas and everything. So all that is still not considered as mechubed as the rest of the aliyahs. Okay, I'd be surprised. Yes?
I also heard the idea that whoever has an oval tries to get maftir. And I guess today we're more concerned about these things than they used to be. The people.
Is it considered less covered nowadays? On a regular person.
What I understand is that shishi and shlishi are covered, and this is you do if you're
If someone is not oval and he gets maftir, is he slighted?
If you would give to a very chashuv rav, you give
maftir. I think it's mechubed, but whatever everybody thinks. Next Gemara. Pocheach paras al shema. What did it say? That Pocheach, since he's not dressed properly, so he can't be Kori B'Torah, he can't be Oval of Ne'ateva because he's not dressed properly. What if he's a minor who's not dressed properly? So the fact that he's a minor maybe is not such a bizayon. An adult who's not dressed properly, so then we don't let him to be Kori B'Torah, doesn't get an aliyah, it doesn't be a shliach tzibur. But if he's also a katan, of course the katan is not can't be a shliach tzibur, but he's allowed to be the Torah. What if he's not dressed properly? He's wearing shorts, let's say shorts only, can he get an aliyah? Why don't you ask about a naked katan? It's not there either. What are you going to say? Because it's not covered. Or my time below, mission covered at Sibor. Not mission covered Sibor. So he says, even though it's not technically usher, but the issue here is not anything technical. It's about honor, and it's not dignified to the Sibor that someone should be Kori B'Torah if he's not dressed properly. Even a katan. Even a katan is also, it wouldn't be dignified enough. So he may not. The next part of the mission spoke about a blind person. We had a machlokas if he could be motzi the bracha of Yosam Oros, or either said not because he doesn't see. He never was able to see. Tanya Amulol of Yehuda Habit Saful Lidrosh B'Merkava V'Lo Rosa Mimein. the way they seem to explain is that the Rabbanan told Rabbi Yehuda, even if you don't see it with your physical eyes, but you could understand it, you could perceive it, you could know what it is. Just like Ma'aseh Merkava, that it's even called over there Tzafu. Tzafu means to see. That they see Ma'aseh Merkava, not that they see it with the physical eyes, they perceive it. So too, even though you never saw it physically, you could perceive, like the blind person could perceive the benefit of light. So why can't he not say the bracha? The Gemara answers, Rabbi Yehuda Hassan Babna said the Liba Talia Milsa V'Hakam Mechavin V'Yoda. Halcham Yisham Anahu V'Ales Le'ano. Rabbi Yehuda says the issue is over here to benefit. He doesn't benefit. True. Over there it's talking about understanding. He can understand. But a person can understand even though he doesn't see it physically. But here we're talking about benefits. He doesn't benefit. He could perceive what light is, even if he never is able to see light. We can explain it to him, he'll understand what's happening, but he won't benefit from it. That's why he can't say the bracha. And what did Rabbanan argue? Rabbanan, they also agree that you have to benefit, but they say there is benefit. Rabbanan, Islay Hana. Rabbanan say that the blind person, even if never was able to see, he does benefit from the light. And then why is that? Because Rabbi Yossi, the Tanya Rabbi Yossi, Kol Yama Yisim Mitzvah Mikrazai, always was troubled by the following pasuk. It's talking about over there by the curses and Kisavo, and it says you're going to be groping in the afternoon as the blind man would grope in the darkness. So we got the point, but blind man in the darkness seems to be repetitious, because if it's blind, even if it would be light outside, they also would be groping. There's no difference to the blind man if it's dark or light. So I should have said, what does it have to? Also, Iver Bafela is redundant. What is the difference to a blind man if it's dark or light? It must be, and then I never knew. I was always bothered by this person, Rabbi Yossi said. But then happened something, and then I was able to learn. It happened a story to me. One time I was going in the thick of night. I was going dark and mamish black.
What's Ishon?
Ishon, I don't know.
Very dark.
The dark of night, the dead of night. Okay, whatever.
I don't know. I saw a blind man that was holding a lantern, a torch. Rabbi Yossi knew that he's blind. Why are you going with a lantern over there? It doesn't help you. Amar Lei. Li, first white line, that when I have a torch, people see me. That's true, I can't see, but I know that people do see the light, and they'll be able to see me. So, and they'll save me from going into a pit, into thorns, into thistles, different kind of thorns. So the blind man also benefits, and we can say simply that the blind man benefits from light because other people are able to lead him. He could talk about the torch at night, but he could talk about the daylight. That the fact that other people are able to see that benefits him also. So that's why we pass on to Rabbanan that the Summa could say Yod Samoros and he could be Motzim.
He benefits from the light even though he can't see it.
Right. Just point out, Rabbi Miller, he always says again and again that in order to, we have eyes and we have light. Either one alone. So Pokeach Ivrim, we thank Hashem for not being blind. And Yod Samoros, we thank Hashem for light. If a person has eyes and he's in the dark, it wouldn't help. Someone has to see. So the brachas are thanking Hashem for eyes and thanking Hashem for light. And he says it's the longest bracha. Yod Samoros starts after bracha, even though there's not a constant between a couple of pages, but it's one big bracha. Fascinating observation.
Why is it Tokeach
I think all of them are like that. So Mechnoflim, not so Mechnoflim, we say Matir Asurim, Zokif Kfufim. We say that Hashem takes us out of our bad situation. If we wouldn't have Hashem supporting us, we'd be lying in bed. And Hashem is one who unties the ropes. And Hashem is one who stands us up erect, even though it's a miracle to be able to stand erect. So we always talk about that Hashem takes away our problems. It's more, I think that it's more emphasized, it's more real. When you see
it's like in our Nick.
Okay, next Mishnah. This is about Birchas Kohanim. The next Mishnah talks about Birchas Kohanim. Kohen sheish b'yad ha'mumin. So interesting nowadays, everybody knows that someone's covering with a talis. Either the Kohanim are covering with a talis or the people are covering with a talis in order not to see the Kohanim. But that's an invention. It wasn't like that in the olden days. The Kohen didn't cover himself with a talis, not his face and not his hands, and the people didn't cover themselves with a talis. And they did Birchas Kohanim. So there's a problem that people should not get distracted by looking at the Kohen. They're allowed to look at the Kohen. Rashi says here's a problem that in Beis HaMikdash, there was a problem that it says if you see the Kohanim, so then ein of chaos, that his eyes become weak, blind, because he sees the Shechina. But that's only the Beis HaMikdash. All the Rishonim say.
They said you look at the Kohen, then.
So it's based on this Rashi here. Here you see the Rashi. Kohen sheyesh b'yad lefisha mistakel mo brings a gemara in chagiga hamistakel b'kohen b'shas shenos nas kapayim ein of chaos. Lefisha ashchina shal yideim. But on the side, right away, it tells us Tosfos and chagiga says that it's not true over there. It's only talking about in the Beis Hamikdash. Here it's a different reason because hesach hadas, and that's what the poskim seem to say against Rashi that only in the Beis Hamikdash was the issue about ein of chaos, that he'll become blinded from that. But now that we don't have the Beis Hamikdash, you're not in the Beis Hamikdash, and then it's only issue about hesach hadas, that you shouldn't
Hesach
get this
is to
hesach.
interruption?
Hesach is like distraction. The exact translation I don't know. Hesach hadas. Hadas is mine. Hesach is going to be something I don't have the exact translation. No time to look for it now.
He'll
But-
get distracted.
They get distracted. He's not going to be concentrating on the blessing. When the Kohen is blessing, he's supposed to be thinking about what he's saying. And if you think about something else, you're distracted. That's not the way to receive a blessing. So the reason why so you're allowed to look at the Kohanim. According to Rashi, the point is that you shouldn't have reasons that's going to attract you to look at the Kohen. But according to the way we paskin, it's not the reason. The reason is that you could be looking at the Kohen, but don't get, and on the contrary, it might be making you more concentration by looking at him. But don't get distracted by some side issue, like the Mishnah is going to say, if he has a blemish in his hands, or if his hands are painted, that you're going to be looking at him at this weird thing.
So
Yeah.
even if we see his fingers, that's not a problem.
So it's not a problem if you see his fingers. The custom is to cover. Now that they cover the towel, either the people cover
I'm talking
their
about the Kohanim.
the Kohanim cover in order that it would permit that even if they have a mum, they would be allowed to do Birchas Kohanim because their hands are covered. Or if their hands are going to be some kind of reason why their hands are colored dye, they could because no one sees their hands. But technically, you wouldn't have to. You wouldn't have to cover their hands
Talking
with the
about a
towels.
Kohen with normal hands.
You would not have
Who
to cover
doesn't
his
cover
hands.
his hands.
Right. So
That's
it's
not a
a
problem.
the custom
I thought
now.
it was a problem.
The custom nowadays is to cover either the people or the Kohanim, but you can't say that it's an avera not to. The custom
I thought
became
it
so
was a
strong.
mixture.
What? What's the
I thought it
mixture?
was a mixture.
What's the mixture going to be?
The Kohen is causing people's eyes to go ekot.
So that's what I'm trying to say. That Rashi says that, but the Mefarshim say that it's
But
not
that's
true. Only in the base of
So it's
Mikdash.
not really mixture.
Right.
Okay.
They're so makar on this minute nowadays that even when they cover, the Kohanim cover themselves with a talis also, people don't look at them. Why not? They're covered with a talis. Why can't they look at them? Anybody? You could look at them. People don't.
Because sometimes teenagers like to put their fingers in. So.
What?
What's the whole minute of take, you're starting underneath the talus?
Just that he should not to be looking at the Kohanim. When the Kohanim did not cover their hands with the talis. It was two manhagim. Nowadays, both manhagim. Some places the Kohanim covered themselves. Some places the people covered their faces. Nowadays, I don't know what people, the Kohanim surely do. And the people also maybe also do. They don't look at the Kohen. They want the kid that he also, when
The
he's,
kid likes it, if it makes him feel cuddled in his father.
that's very good, fine. But the point that they're doing it is because he shouldn't see the Kohen. But the Kohanim are covered anyway.
So
Okay.
what about a barefoot Kohen? That take hesek does.
So if the people are covering their faces, so then
That's
it's
okay.
okay. But if the Kohanim are covering their faces, the best. But the feet barefoot is not a problem. We'll see. There's only a problem if it's going to be like pocheach. Like we said before, pocheach. No, we saw it already. Pocheach means that his tattered clothing, maybe he's wearing shorts or something like that. Maybe shorts nowadays is in his hand. He should not do Birchas Kohanim because people would be distracted by looking at him. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Achni Shahayod of Svuas Istis, some of different gears of Pua, Lo Yisa Eskapa B'nei Sham Mistaklim. If his hands are dyed, red ink, blue ink, whatever it might be, also he should not because people look at him. Not after if it's a moon.
This is what I
Even
have.
woad. Woad is
It's a plant.
the plant that they make indigo from.
Oh, yeah.
Tchelas means you can get the plant version.
What do you get?
It looks like it's
Say,
yellow.
This is clay, this is from a fish, no?
That's the kosher one. But there's a imitation that's called kol ilam. That's from indigo plant.
That's
It's not called.
that's-
This is
This is- but this looks yellow. It doesn't look.
maybe the extract. I don't know. I never saw that picture, but I don't know. And maybe they're wrong about that. I think that the woad is the indigo plant. Maybe you can look it up. What does woad mean? If it's indigo, then that's it. Maybe the plant itself is yellow, but The extract that they get
The
is going to.
extract will turn out to be.
Look, but I don't know about it.
Okay.
Okay, so the point is that if he has color, it doesn't make a difference what color it is. It could be yellow, blue, green, whatever it is. If he has colored hands, also people are distracted and they're going to look at him and they're going to be distracted from the bracha. The Brisa says, "Tana movement shamu b'fanav yadav v'raglav." Even though the Mishnah says b'yadav, our case it says b'yadav. It says not after his hands, his feet, his face, anything that they're going to be able to see. If he has a blemish, so then they'll be distracted and they won't think about the bracha.
Excuse me. So Rabbi Yehuda would also. It would mean that they could cover their hands.
So they didn't cover the hands in the olden days, so they didn't talk about it. Nowadays it's a new invention. They cover the hands, so nowadays they say that you could.
So for Rabbi Yehuda, a professional, like a house painter,
A house painter,
Usually he has
that's coming up soon.
paint all
We'll talk
over.
about soon. If he's a professional house painter and everybody knows about him, he's the town
oh, then you're
painter.
not distracted.
Then he's, even if he doesn't cover his hands, it's okay. But
Okay.
you're taking a new invention that even if he comes as a visitor and no one knows about him, and wow, this guy's all blue and pink and red, and it's very interesting to look at him. But if he covers his hands with the towel, so they'll permit it also nowadays, because no one's going to see him. Okay, the Gemara says, he says, if he has speckled or freckled hands, also some kind, not a mum mamish maybe this is considered a mum, but also anything which is going to cause people to look at him, he's also not allowed to do Nusiyas Kapayim. Again, when he's not covered. The price continues, akumos, akushos, if he has bent or twisted hands, any kind of disformation, no use as kapov, because people will be looking at him.
Sure, this is in the category of older woman of Kohana.
It could, I don't recall, but even if it would not be, that it could be, yes, it could be. But I think that even if it would not be, that's not the point. Here, the point is if people are going to look at him. So it's a different category, not about a blemish as much as something interesting to people. Amr Ravasi, Chayfani uBeishani lo yisas kapov. A person from Haifa or a person from Beit Shan should not do Birchas Kohanim. Why not? Why? What's wrong with Haifa and Beit Shan? Another city. And they don't discern between the sound of Aleph and Ayin. So they're going to say the words wrong. Some say the point is because they'll say the words wrong. And even in Haifa and Beit Shan also they shouldn't do it, even though everybody does it over there. Some say the point is only because it's strange. People, that's like you have distraction by seeing his hands and feet. You also have a distraction by hearing this funny way of talking. They don't know how to say Aleph, discern between Aleph and Ayin. Nowadays, we don't discern between Aleph and Ayin. Only maybe all of us, we're all Chayfani Ubeshani. All of us are like that nowadays. Maybe this maybe Teimanim, Yemenites. I'm not sure if all the Sfardim, but to discern between Aleph and Ayin. So in a place, so the postscript say that it's okay if everybody. Ashkenazim surely don't discern.
They are.
No, they
The
get
Bakri,
it. They get it.
I hear the difference.
Which minion?
Rav Eliyahu.
Yeah, could be.
I mean, it's subtle. It's not.
Okay, see,
Lion, but it's.
he's trying. He's trying to.
He's trying to make.
He's trying to do it. Okay, but we're going to pass that since everybody or most people, 99% of the people don't discern, so the postman will say that it's
So
okay.
hear Yair.
No, don't make an ayin. That's the problem. Make an
They'll
olive.
they'll hear Yair. That's what somebody from Haifa would do. They'll hear the Yair.
You're saying that. Not.
That's
I'm saying that everyone said like nowadays everyone just says olive. They don't have ayin at all.
Everybody says.
You're
"Oh,
saying
it's
that they
not
don't
though."
discern. They have an olive and ayin, but they mixed it up,
Back then, they
They mixed
heard
it up.
you heard the difference in it, so the word. comes out
and
wrong.
they would mix it up.
Yeah.
Good. Mar says a side story over here about the subject about not being able to articulate the letters, which is not our subject, but a side story. Amalei Reb Chiya Rabbi Shimon by Rebbe. Reb Chiya Reb Shimon by Rebbe were chavrusis. Reb Chiya was a Talmud of Rebbe. Reb Shimon was a son of Rebbe. El Maliat Levi, he wasn't a Levi. He was from the house of Yehuda. But if you'd be a Levi, you'd be possible to be on the ducha and singing because you have a thick voice. You have that your voice is not kosher for the singing Levi. So he was insulted. He went to tell his father, you know what, he told me that my voice will be possible for the ducha. When you get up to Yeshaya and you say this pasuk, you're going to say something that's blaspheming because he didn't know. Reb Chiya didn't know how to discern between a ches and a hey. We don't say a ches, we say a chaf, but there's a ches which is very similar to a hey, and he wasn't able to discern, and he didn't. He said it like a hey, and when he was saying v'chikisi, it sounds like v'ikesi, like I will strike. That's a terrible thing to say. It's supposed to mean I hope to Hashem. And he's saying strike. So he was like giving him back an insult that you say that tell him that you're saying that my voice is not a good voice. You have a problem with pronouncing the letters. Whatever you can learn from this Gemara, I don't know. But there's something about it sounds like a shtoch for a shtoch, and maybe Lashon Hara here. I don't know what to learn from here. It needs
Maybe-
explanation. Yes, please.
If someone has a stutter or a mispronunciation, maybe only to mention it when it's applicable, because here it wasn't applicable.
So why did he only said it to get back at him? An insult for an insult. The first one, it could be the first one that said that your voice is not kosher. So it didn't mean it didn't have any. Maybe he didn't mean to insult him, but he was insulting, and he gave him back. And his father told him what to tell him back. So I have difficulty with this Gemara. I don't know what to learn from it, but it seems the Chafetz Chaim would have something to say about it. I don't know. The Gemara continues back to the subject about Birchas Kohanim. Rav Huna Zavlagan, he says kapov. The Gemara Rashi says Zavlagan means somebody whose eyes are constantly tearing. He's tears in his eyes. He's always tearing. So that's also something that causes attraction. People look at it, and there'll be distraction. The Gemara says, Rav Huna says you can't do that. There was somebody in the neighborhood of Rav Huna. He's the Rav, and he allowed a person who was a Zavlagan, to do Nesias Kapayim. The answer is who Dash Hava. He was usual. Everyone knew him. He was usual, so people didn't get excited about it because they see him every day. But somebody would be a visitor, so then it will be usher. So there's a new heter over here about Dash B'Yiro. The postman applied to everything, not only this particular case, but all the cases we said. If it's a mum, but he lives over there, and everybody's used to him already. It doesn't cause distraction.
How do you explain dash B'Yiro?
He's usually dash.
That means to trample.
So I don't know. So I'm not sure if that's the shot over here. Dash B'Yiro. Dash Rashi says Margil. Promote the dash. Given the dash. I don't think Rashi. I don't know if Rashi means to say that it's not the regular word. You're thinking about threshing. I think maybe it might be an Aramaic word that means once it's usual. But as far as the Gemara goes, the idea is that it's usual. It talks about Shabesh Chivin the Olo or Chivin the Dash. I think so. So I don't know the exact translation of this word. I didn't look into it.
Excuse me, Rebbe.
We have more time during Tanakh. We have more time, but here we'll keep on running. Yes, please.
Are we saying that a Kohen with a mum can do chin, but he wouldn't be able to serve in the base of mikvah? It seems like these are all. I thought that the Kohen with a mum is not allowed to do chin. That's not.
Why? Why? No, it's not true.
It's not true.
Not true. A mum.
So what is a
again.
mum
Let's get this.
different
A mum that's not noticeable is not possible to do Birchas Kohanim. It's only these things that are noticeable. This issue, I think that this Gemara is not
And
the issue.
if he's known.
Then-
So here, these people have a mum, and he's known in his town. He still can.
Right, because there's no psul of Birchas Kohanim if he has. He's not allowed to do a vote in the base of Mikdash, but there's no psul for Birchas Kohanim.
There's no psul for.
It's the only consideration is people shouldn't be distracted.
Very good.
It's
Okay.
And the other way also, it can be a distraction that's not a mum. He has blue hands. That's not a mum.
It's not a.
It might be other problems. Anything that's also gives distraction. I don't recall. I think we had such a Gemara before spoke about mum for Birchas Kohanim. Yeah, we had a Ferish Gemara in Tainus, wherever it was. We had a Gemara. It says a Baal mum is kosher. It's the one for not
It's just for a vote in the base.
in the voter base of Mikdash. I forgot exactly the page and everything, but there was a sugya 99%. And I think here that's what the Gemara is saying here, that it's only issue about distraction. Amr Rav Yochanan, Suma Bachas Meinav Lo Yisas Kappa. A man who's blind, even in one eye, he should not do Nesias Kapayim. What did the Mishnah say before? It spoke about a Suma. Did it say anything about that? It didn't
He said
say.
someone who
No, you
never
have
saw
an
light
idea.
from when he
It didn't. It didn't say about. It didn't say about Nesias Kapayim. It just spoke about Paras Al Shema, Matargim. It didn't talk about it here. Rav Yochanan says it's a problem, but the Mefarshim say it's only. See that he's blind, so there's no distraction. It's only distraction if something looks strange about his eyes, and even in one eye. The Marsakasha there was somebody in the neighborhood of Rabbi Yochanan that was blind, and he did do Birchas Kohanim, but Yochanan didn't stop him. The same thing as we said, that he was usual over there. People weren't impressed. They were used to it already, and they're supposed to say even if he has blind in both eyes also. If they're used to it, so then they're not going to look at him. And that's why we pass. And again, nowadays that they cover it with the talus, and then there's no issue about it at all. You're talking about another issue, that somebody that has a wrong way of saying something is not going to help the talus anymore. The talus doesn't help for the way
Right,
that it's
but just like
pronouncing
the
it.
guy with the torch at night, he can benefit.
Not following at all. Yeah,
The word yair means to illuminate, right? So the substance of the bracha.
I'm not following. That the Kohen can give a bracha that Hashem should shine his face countenance upon you doesn't have nothing to do with
Oh,
being
no, no.
blind.
No,
Yair Hashem panav elecha, Hashem should shine his countenance upon you. There's no problem that a blind man could say it.
uh-huh,
The issue is that people shouldn't look at his eyes and be distracted
uh-huh.
if they look strange. Even though Rabbi Yehuda says that if his hands are painted in some color, so it's also a distraction. But the Brisa says that most of the people are like that. They're all painters. Everyone's a painter over there. So they're not impressed with that. It can be even, he's not Dashbi, he's a visitor, but he comes to the place, everyone got blue hands, yellow hands, everybody has blue and yellow hands. It's not a problem. So then that's also another heter. So you have Dashbi Hero and you have, if Malachto Bakach, and we have nowadays a talus. We have something else. Next Mishnah. Somebody says, I'm not going to be the Shliach Tzibur with colored clothing. I only wear white clothing when I'm a Shliach Tzibur. So we're suspicious. We don't let him to be a Shliach Tzibur even if he was going to put on white clothing. Even if we'll get him to be masculine, but we don't let him anymore. And the Gemara is going to say because maybe he's a Apikoros that they had this custom on Tinimak and only to daven for the Shliach Tzibur at least with white clothing. So we're suspicious. The next case, Bisandal Enio, he says, I'm not going to go with shoes, only barefoot. Also, the same idea that was the custom of the Apikoros. We don't let him to be the Shliach Tzibur if he's going to be barefoot. We're not going to give in, and even if he's going to be masculine, we're not going to be masculine. The next case, also at Tfilah Agula, someone makes his tefillin round tefillin. Sakana bein ba mitzvah. It's not a mitzvah. He's not the mitzvah tefillin if he has round tefillin, and it's also dangerous. They say dangerous because if he bumps into something, so it could penetrate his skull easier than if it would be flat. The son al mitzvah al paseli.
I'm sorry,
Agula, round tefillin.
Oh.
Our tefillin are square.
Why is this second?
What? It's a sakana. So Rashi says because he might bump into something. Or Ben Chanan says they'll fall tachnan with a not a zest, and it'll bump into something and it's going to go into his head. A physical sakana. Taisa says that
It's round also on his skull.
right. I'm not sure what's happening. Something's upset over here.
Somebody's sending messages.
Okay, I don't know. Is everybody hearing? Is the audio still going?
Yeah, we hear everything.
Okay, thank you. So also tefillah agula. Someone made his tefillin to be round. It's a sakana. Rashi says he might get tefillin penetrated into his skull. And by mitzvah, you're not the mitzvah has to be. It's not good. It's not kosher tefillin. Tosfos points out not a pshat that if he's in a dangerous place, the tefillin's not going to protect him because he's not doing the mitzvah. Two pshatim over there. The next one, the son of mitzvah al pasel. He put the tefillin on his forehead or on the palm of his hand. He thinks that's called beinei necha and al yadecha. No, hareza derech aminus. They stop Apikoros way and they read the pasuk literally, but that's not the pshat. Then he's not the the mitzvah either. Tzipon zav and the son al beison kalishalo. He made golden tefillin or he put them over his sleeve. Also, hareza derech chitzonim. It's the way of people that are what chitzonim. What do you say about that? Chitzonim?
Going outside the confines of halacha.
I don't know. I really don't know. The truth is, all of them is not Yotzei. All of them is Minos. The Mishnah gives a title for each one. This is called Ein Bar Mitzvah. This is called Derech Minos. This is called Derech Chitzonim. I don't know what this distinction is, but all of them they're not Yotzei.
Chitzonim could be philosophers.
Okay.
It's chochmas chitzon.
It could be people that are showy. They
People
make
who
it
follow
gold.
their own judgment.
Their own judgment. Okay, I don't know. The Gemara says, my time, what's the problem with he wants to go with white clothing and barefoot? We're concerned maybe he has Apikoros over there. Also, mitzvah around tefillin is not a mitzvah. There seems to be a support from this Mishnah to the Brisa that says tefillin it must be square tefillin. And here it says round tefillin is not good. That's what it says. Isn't that what it says? That round is not kosher. But the Gemara says not approved. The next four words is not relevant. You can put in parentheses. When we say that it has to be square, not only the box has to be square, also the stitching. If you look onto the tefillin, it's stitched all around. The stitching also has to be a square stitching. It has to be different. The sewing.
What?
The sewing. Different. It's four.
So
I didn't say that. I said different.
different, yeah.
That means that it's sewing. The sewing also has to be square.
Has to be
and
square.
square, a square box. When you stitch it in a perfect square.
Okay.
Besides the box being square, the stitching has to be square.
It's
Sorry,
around the
Messina.
box. What does it mean?
It's around the box.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. If anybody has tefillin around, you can look at them. Around the base, you have stitching. You look in the bottom, you can see the stitching better.
I see that stitching has
Has
to
to
be
be in a square.
in a square.
In a square design. Surah. And alachsonan, they say alachsonan means that besides having the length of all four sides equal, they also it should be a 90-degree angle. That when you
Uh-huh.
the way to check that is by making the two diagonals, they should be equal. You could have one diagonal less than the other. You have each one will be the same 2 centimeters, let's say. But if they're not 90-degree angles, so then one diagonal will be longer than the other. So it means to say a perfect square, not a
I see.
And it has to come
diamond
down 90
shape.
degrees. When you drill the hole on a flat piece of, when you're drilling the hole down into those.
No. I'm talking about the box.
Oh, the outside.
The box.
Outside.
Oh, the stitches also. The stitching also. When you want to measure if it's equal, so you check the two diagonals if they're equal. It's not going to be enough just you're going to measure each of the four sides. Each one will be the same amount. That's not a proof that it's a square. It might be a diamond shape.
It says
The diagonal.
diagonal.
Diagonal. Check the two diagonals that they're the same shape. Then you know
That
you
they're
got a
the
square.
same
The same
size,
size.
same
Then
length.
you'll
It says
know
it's
that
one-
you got
yeah,
a
it
square.
says
That you got a
here
square.
what
But that's a
It's 1
side
and
point.
2/5. I see. It's one
That's a
and
side. That's a side point. But what the Gemara does want is the answer to the question. Do you see a proof from here that you need a square tefillin? It says round tefillin is not kosher.
So it's
I'm
not
Papa
even-
Maslisan David Kim goes not necessarily. It could be you don't need a square, but Amish says that it shouldn't be a ball. It shouldn't be round like a Rashi says like a nut. But maybe if it's
Uh-huh.
something that's not a ball mamish, maybe it will be kosher. The truth is it's not. But the Gemara is saying it's not a proof of mamish. Yashakov, we'll be back in 2 minutes. Bezos Hashem. Thank you.
Very good job, Rav.
100 and egg.
Excellent.